Alrighty. So yeah, Shane, you've been a good friend of mine for quite a while. That's pretty fun.
That is true. That is
Yeah.
true. It's been what 10 years now yet? Or
No,
not?
no,
Yeah,
it's been
probably about
8
10
years.
years. 9, 10
It's been
years?
8 years. Well,
8 years. Okay.
yeah, yeah. 2013, even though that was 7 years ago, if we count 2020, it's year 8. So
Heck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
known you
Yeah.
for quite a
Full
while.
8 years.
Also have known Andres for the same amount of time.
That's right. This is exciting, man. On the air with Shane Hertig, the one and the only. This is the first.
You guys?
We're not live just yet. I gotta name it and stuff.
Come on.
Okay. No, that's good. Because you want to just kind of be in flow. So I listened to the first 20 minutes of your talk with Jeffrey.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
You think?
I think one of those stories I might have been there for. He's talking about a bad PR story. I feel like that was maybe that crazy summer with what summer was the summer where all the child stuff happened with the Estonians?
I feel
What year
like
is that?
every summer after 2013.
2013 sounds right.
Yeah, those are the summers I won't have any memories for because I think my brain just blocks them out. I don't think I have any stories to share from those years.
That's okay.
Right? It's a defense mechanism.
That's fair. That's fair. If anybody's out there listening right now or for whatever people do, we finally decided on a name for this podcast. Shane, it's Ponytails, like tales about ponies.
Ponytails.
What do you think of that?
I feel like in writing that worked really well. You hear it and you're kind of like, ponytails, what? And then you see ponytails, it's like, oh, got it. That makes sense. Are we live?
Yes, we are. Are we talking to everybody live? Do we want to do it to the whole world? Mostly my friend group is what it's doing right now, or do we want to do it on Southwestern Alumni Uncensored?
Just on that page, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the way. That's the precedent you want to set, I think,
I agree. I deleted it. We're gonna have to go live again. 1 second.
Oh my God.
Okay.
I'll just introduce you.
So wait, that was just publicly to the world?
Yeah, for a minute.
Yeah, you just don't, you don't want to put that stuff out on the internet.
I agree.
Seeing as how my misdemeanor solicitation thing means I can never use Airbnb again in my life, who knows what some dumb video will prevent you from doing in the future,
What a shit story that happened. I'm sorry that happened to you. Maybe you could tell us about that right off the bat. Just tell us.
Yeah, that'll be a real uplifting opener.
Yeah, your blue light special.
I mean, dude, but how many people it's so funny because when you're a manager and when you start interviewing and recruiting, you learn to you learn the certain stories of setting expectations for people of you set the expectation you're going to cry and you have a conversation before bringing someone to the book field about what it's going to feel like when they cry. Right.
Right.
You guys remember having that conversation with someone?
I don't, because I got recruited the Wednesday of finals week, and I think Steve said it as a passing fancy, but I definitely gave that talk.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Giving someone that talk of, hey, you're gonna cry, and my personal experience was weird to share because most people, you're gonna cry your first day. I didn't cry till my last day, and it was that's how tough that stuff is, right?
Yeah, that's how you almost don't even experience it, and then of course it sneaks up on you the summer that way.
Although not crying my last day, it seems like I was sad to leave. I was I don't know if I can knock on another door.
Oh my God, are we live now?
We are live
we're going.
We're live with Shane Hertig, the man, the myth, the legend. Oh man. Can introduce what to say about such a great human being. Yeah, good having you here, buddy.
Hey, you can just talk about me all day. I'll just sit here and listen.
Yeah, man, you're a stud. I remember you. I remember meeting you. I'm just gonna go with what I remember from meeting you. You got introduced to me as the #1 first year from 2 years prior to when I sold, which was, to me, I was like, oh shit, what is?
Oh, it was 2 years before. I was feeling it was 1 year, but yeah, it was 2. You're right.
Yeah, but it was 2 years.
I thought we were 1 year apart.
Right. Yeah, no, and and Steve was like, my manager guy had recruited me. He was like, whatever this guy says to do, do. I'm like, all right, sir. And he was right, man. You're a stud in the book field. We'll get into some of your accolades in a little bit. Oh, what the heck? Sorry,
What was that?
I got notified that we went live, and then it just opened it on its own.
Interesting.
Oh, there we go.
So I was listening to myself talk, which is awesome.
That's what you're into, you know?
Yeah, man. Shane Hertig, good to have you, man. Good to have you.
Yeah, this will be fun. We've already had some fun. Everyone missed it.
Yeah, right. We had a funny story where we were trying to get this thing going at a bit of an earlier hour, and
dude, I think everyone would have loved that, like 25 minutes on life insurance. You know,
yeah,
I think that would have been like everyone just missed out. Ask anyone listening to this. Ask Andres for his opinions on term versus whole life insurance.
And not the whole person, the whole life.
No, you're studying it. You've taken tests. You're not qualified. Andres is the one to go to.
Yeah, ask me some
I'm just building an agency.
Oh, you got a beer. What are you drinking there?
If you're familiar with our friends over at Avery, they've got this German Oktoberfest. So this is the original.
Have you toured their facility?
Not yet. No, they're up in Fort Collins, right?
Boulder. Yeah, they've got like a $32 million facility.
Holy
like
shit.
You're talking like craft brewers. They are like the Rolls Royce of brewing facilities. It's pretty awesome.
That's impressive.
Damn, dude.
Yeah. So I remember meeting Shane after my first summer. I had just like an exhausting first summer, and I'm just like, I need to just form good habits. And I'm going to this Grant Greeters after, the school year starts. He throws a bash at his house, right? And a bunch of other managers that I never worked with.
Big ass house.
We're just like, I'm just like hungover, and I smashed my ear in, and I'm just like lazily sleeping on a couch somewhere. I don't know where I'm at in Lincoln, Nebraska. And Shane's like getting up, hey, you want to go for a run? And I met you prior to that, but that was the first time you and I alone together went and did stuff. And we went on a run around just was that the Bottoms or something like that? No, it was campus. But
was that the same day we went and got burgers?
Yeah, we went and got burgers. Okay. And I was like, I need a ride to Omaha, and you drove me an hour just out of goodwill.
Wait, so that was the first day we met? We didn't meet in the summer before that or anything?
We
maybe kind of
passing, but that was the first time it was just you and me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget going to Honest Abe's, man. That was a real tasty burger. And we got to sing "Bitches Ain't Shit" by Ben Folds, and that was awesome. Good times.
That's so great. Were you? That's definitely anyone out there that went through a breakup. "Bitches Ain't Shit" by Ben Folds, best breakup song ever. True fact.
I'll take notes.
And best recovering from rejection on the book field song ever.
Yeah, because all those moms, fuck them, right? Bitches ain't shit.
About Mrs. Jones.
Yeah, maybe second best behind Jay-Z's On the Next One. That's probably number one all time.
That's fair. I like Mac Miller's 1, 2, 3.
Knock Knock.
What was that? Which one was that?
Knock Knock.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Dude, I literally introduced someone to that song 2 days ago who knocks on doors for a living and had never heard that song.
Oh.
Isn't that criminal?
So they've never sold door to door, is essentially what.
No, their job. We just started a canvassing team for our solar company, and this guy was our canvassing manager, and he had never heard that song. Isn't that weird?
Mistake. We sang it at the Q's
wedding.
He's
never been to a book wedding, exactly.
I was saying it at the Q's wedding. Awesome. That's crazy, man. All right, so Shane, let me get some stats from you. Let me get some stats from you about your Southwestern career. Let's just dig in.
Stats. Who cares about stats, man?
Andres is a math major, and he just cares about numbers. You're a number to him.
I need to
number.
You are your unit.
What would be the top 3 most important stats that are actually relevant after 5 to 10 years retired? Number of blue light specials. That's an entertaining stat.
Yes.
Mine's pretty low, actually. I was pretty good at that, but
I would say I want to know how many sit downs you had your 4th summer, 3rd week. You don't know that.
I mean, yeah, I think I averaged about like 13 or 14 a day,
Where were
so
you selling that
take
for
that
summer?
times 60, probably somewhere in the 80 to 100 range,
All right.
Yeah.
That's a decent spread. But what about these customers you were sitting down with? Where were you selling that summer? That was your fourth summer, right?
Fourth summer. Okay. Ooh, man, we're playing some memory games here. Fourth summer, that was in Maine. That was, yeah. I was
Beautiful.
living in Westbrook, Maine, selling in Scarborough and Cape Elizabeth.
Mm,
Wow, that's some pretty,
tasty country right there.
yeah,
Beautiful.
Territory.
yeah, richest towns in Maine.
Ooh, so yeah, there you go.
Mhm.
Like, if you're not selling a lot of books, you need to go home. Right?
Yeah, I was selling over this guy, Ty, what was his name? Maybe you guys know him. His nickname was the
Christensen?
Bulldog. That's all I remember. Ty Christensen. Yeah, Jake's
Yeah.
brother. I don't really
never
know
met him.
Ty like I know Jake, but the dude sold 10,000 units in this territory like 5, 6 years before, 4 years before. I don't know how long. Maybe 3 years before. I don't remember. But I would run into like seniors and like someone who only had a senior in high school, and he had been there 4 years before, and they'd be like, "Oh, we already bought. Let me show you what we got." And they'd come out with like the bag. Like he'd sell like Mufus to like sophomores in high school.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
like there's someone in high school. They're like, "Yeah, we got these books. We never used them," and they like pull out these kids' books. I'm like, "Wait, wasn't your kid like 13? When you bought these?" And
Damn.
yeah,
That's hilarious. So you were out there in Maine, and
Mhm.
yeah, I actually like sold in the territory that Matt Atchison had his first summer during my first summer over there in
Really?
Uxbridge, Massachusetts. And actually, my roommate, who's the manager, took that turf and knocked it. And there were people like, I remember Matt, and this was like 2013. He was there 12 years before I was.
Wow.
And they're just like, yeah, he had like an afro, right? And he was like this like kind of weird guy from Nebraska. And yeah, we still have him. Let me show you. Just
That's
like,
awesome.
wow, way to make a lot.
What a compliment to Matt, huh?
Yeah, 6,000 units that first summer. There were a lot of buyers. So.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, people remembering you after 12 years like that, though, like he made an impression. That's awesome.
I sold over some people, and people still remember them well too. That's kind of crazy how good people can be at this job.
Yeah.
Well,
Did you ever
it's
sell
just like
yourself?
VLs?
how many
Did you ever
times
sell
have
over yourself?
you sold over yourself like you bet?
I watched Fee do it.
No, dude, I
flew.
heard about Fee selling over himself.
I flew, guys. This is like legendary. Like I've never seen anything like this. So I fly to New Jersey or Long Island to follow Fee. Like I don't know, my third or fourth summer.
Legendary
and
Fee go.
wanted to learn how to get the next level, right?
Yeah.
He gets 21 contacts in a day, right? 21 contacts, 20 demos, and 20 sips. We literally sat down with every single person he talked to besides one.
Wow.
And I followed him the whole day. Like stayed with the night before, left that night, like whole day, right?
Yeah.
20 out of 20 sit downs. And some of these, like, they'd be like, "Go away." And he'd be like knocking on their window, like looking in, like, "Hey mama, like, come on." And she'd like, eventually she'd come over and be like, "Oh, what do you want? Like, I told you to go away already." And he just like, his smile, he just diffused them and come up and invite us in, and had two people, like this lady gave us this like amazing Dominican food or Haitian food. Oh my gosh. But I think he had like, I don't remember how many sales he made, but it was like over 250 units. I think he sold 12 of the 20 or something insane. It was ridiculous.
He was selling over himself?
Yeah.
He was selling over himself. Yeah, that's tangent. Yeah, he was selling over himself as well.
Where was that?
So,
this
is Long Island.
Oh yeah, that was 2013. I didn't get to follow him, but I shared Sunday meetings with him.
That was that same Maine summer. Yeah.
And he could dance also like a crazy man. At Sizzler, he was killing it.
With what?
On Sizzler.
Also, bro. He
oh yeah.
That was a couple years later.
Well, hey, you literally, did you say that because you know that would be a lead-in into your dance moves?
No.
If he was best dancer on Sizzler, then you were second best.
No. The next best was Omar Uribe, and then it was me. But no, listen to this. The guy that just broke the company record.
Emil?
Emil, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He sells over himself. Like from what I understand, he just keeps going from where he left off the summer before.
That's awesome.
That's really cool. Yeah. So he'll kind of do like callbacks to the turf, but then he'll start where he left off and like go into new turf after that.
So wherever he just got done if he sells next year,
that makes sense.
Because he already had names.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Testimonials and stuff. He knew everything.
If you're not
so
doing
like the
that,
first 3 weeks, he didn't have to worry about like figuring out the math teachers' names because like.
So is he not running an org, or did he just like set aside like 5 years worth of turf for himself?
I don't know how that worked out, but I know that's what he did it for like because he sold like 15,000 units and then like 17, 18, then 18.
Yeah. I guess if you're that good, you don't care if you're selling over someone. So like someone in his org could have been there the year before. He doesn't care. He's rolling with names and he's in, you know.
I mean, he's just jamming. Or maybe he like had his org go south and he just kept going north or something. I don't know. But it was I heard about that and I was like, that's crazy.
So you had, you know, your brother Danny was out there selling and hitting DSN this year, which is awesome. So you're a little more like tied in, I guess, to the book world. I hadn't probably heard an update in the book world for like a year. And then I caught up with Danny in August before seeing both of you at a wedding, which was amazing. And I had thought that they probably had like a tragically horrid summer because the whole pandemic thing and figured it'd be PR stuff, but it was the opposite, huh? Everyone needs
one campus, bro. Go big.
That's awesome. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and this is actually kind of interesting. I can catch you up on a little bit on that. And to brag on my brother because I like doing that.
Of course, and he deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely. He was the first person to sell books online. So they had him guinea pig this like idea where the first part of the summer they actually sold over Zoom. So they like called everybody they knew, they got a bunch of referrals, and then they just called people, and approached them through the phone and practice their approach on the phone, and then they would set the Zoom appointment and then sell over Zoom for like the first 4 weeks, and everybody went kind of like to a nearby town. So like they went to Kansas City from Lincoln. Just stayed in HQs, but like I think like 6 people per HQ, and then after the first 3 or 4 weeks, then they went to Nashville, did a quick sales school.
Weird. And they just to get outside their comfort zones and not have the distractions of home. They went and they worked virtually from somewhere else for a little while.
And then
I didn't know that. Huh.
Yeah. So Danny was the first person in company history to sell something over online, like to somebody else. Which is
I was
He's not the first person to
recruit people.
I'm pretty sure I called my cousins and sold them some books, you know, over the phone. I don't think he's the first
so
one.
Brag on Danny all you want. I'm gonna brag on myself, Andres. I recruited people online.
The point is
like 100%. You didn't meet them at all.
The point is this is super interesting. The first years kicked ass at it, and the managers, especially the Bs, struggled with Zoom.
Huh.
Yeah, because I think they were just kind of used to going door to door, and so then like getting used. It was a super interesting. But at the end of the day, by the time they all got out there, they hit the road like running. It was crazy. They had to
I mean, it makes sense. They're selling a product that people actually needed this time, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone. Like, I mean, that's a whole nother.
Kids how to do math homework.
Otherwise, they never need it, but this time.
If there's a pandemic. I mean, I think anyone that's being honest with themselves got to a point eventually where they realized, hey, for me to make decent money doing this, I have to sell this product to a lot of people I know aren't going to benefit from it. Right?
Yeah, that's true. It's
better to have it not need it than to need it and not have it, guys.
There you go, Nick.
There's your closing phrase that Danny Gamboa is just a huge fan of. I was his AOL, my friend. The
point is, I guess it's not if they need it or not. It's if they think they need it, and a lot of people thought they needed it.
It's logic. It's a
logic. Hey, it's better that it's worth $600 just for the parents to spend. For the kids to see the parents spending money on education, right?
That's fair. Yeah.
That's how I justified it, at least.
You're a good example for these young kids, right?
Hey, you know what? I say that sarcastically, but if they remembered Matt Atchison 12 years later, then obviously there were some people where that was the case. But
well, you gotta be a good person, right?
I will say, so you said this is like the uncensored
Yeah.
page, right? Yeah. I mean, I literally was justifying to myself at the end of my career selling books that I'm like, you know what? Like, if they, like, I sell some books to someone in a trailer home that I know is really hurting for money, but like I've built the hope that this could be, you know, the future for their kids. And maybe it is. I bet for some kids it was. And
absolutely it was.
but I literally was justifying to myself, hey, I'm going to do great things with my life. I'm going to change the world. It's better that I have this money than them. And then spent that on booze, probably, you know. Like, it's kind of gross though, right? Like, I started noticing that about my own kind of mentality. I'm like, that's so pretty nasty. That my conviction level is so high that I can justify this, that they should buy for, you know, any reason, you know.
That's
for making your life better, Shane.
I will say, like, I did run into people who have had the books who did definitely use them, and then I definitely.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So that's fair. That's fair. So hold on. So Shane, how did you get into Southwestern? I actually have never heard this story. How did you get recruited?
Actually, I want to pump the brakes for a 5-second answer question, because this was from an audience member. Shane.
Oh, wait, we have people listening right now?
Yeah, we're on this. If
What's
you
up,
go
guys?
to Facebook on your laptop and go to the uncensored page, we're live in the uncensored page.
Cool. What's up, Southwestern Uncensored?
Yeah, we got 6 people viewing right now. One of them may or may not be Benjamin Goodman.
So what's the question?
Yeah. Do you
let's hear Ben's question.
Shane, do you miss being a Speedo Amigo?
Oh my gosh.
We should explain.
It's Sizzler right now. Or like a week ago.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. I mean, well, are they still doing it over Thanksgiving, or do they change things?
They moved it to, like, the first day of Sizzler was Thanksgiving. So they missed Thanksgiving.
Welcome back. Welcome back, guys. Man, Speedo Amigos, literally, like that in Slosh Ball, like, you could just ask me cold, hey, what do you miss most about Southwestern? I miss my Speedo Amigos.
Oh, yeah. 1, 2,
Which, why you... There you go. Yeah. You put on a Speedo your 1 year, right, Nick? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh
my gosh.
2 of my Sizzlers, I was a Speedo Amigo.
Then we gotta just like book some time in Mexico. Let's just book a resort post pandemic. Let's get some Speedos
with only Speedo Amigos. Because otherwise, if there's a girl involved, that's
no. You need one girl in there.
If there's 2
but
girls,
any more than one girl in the photo, and it's a little gay, you know.
Who? Not just that, but it's like we're unsafe. They're the Amigo hawks, man. They're looking at it, they're like, we're too sexy for them to keep their hands on.
Andre, what's your question?
How did this tradition start? Because now it's a thing, and they do those and shit out of it.
I mean, so I can't claim. So Kyle, my brother Kyle, and Andrew Benson, who also lives here in Austin, we brought it back, right? So we, what was it? Something like Hans Schlegel and Ryan. What's Ryan's last name? Davis. Yeah. Some of those guys, Mike Ford, Salata, kind of when he was like a little baby. They did like a Speedo Day. So we kind of brought back Speedo Day, but we started the Speedo Amigos, and it started with just, Kyle, Andrew, and I, and then grew from there. But oh man, that was fun. So second year, I think Ben was, with us there is like 7, maybe his third year. But yeah, we had 7 the second year, and then like 13 the third year. And that was the year that everyone, like, I think of that year, I just think of Edgar. I don't know if you guys were on that Sizzler. You can just picture just Edgar, like, oof. Good for him.
The Amigo.
Oh
man. All right. Yes. So that's a funny story. All right. Well, hopefully.
Yeah, right. There's so many weird things we do in Southwestern. It's a fucking cult. Everybody knows that.
Oh, the best. Yeah, the best cult. And I remember having that conversation with Lee McCroskey where I was like, this is kind of a cult, isn't it? He's like, yeah, I mean, but what cult pays out $10 million in, commissions to its members, That's not a cult. It's a business. So it's a business cult.
It's a business cult. That's fair enough. It's the Marines for sales training, apparently, according to
Absolutely. Y'all, I was fucking telling Andres this at the start of this thing, just a brief show. This is what I'm working on for work. I'm literally taking selling and recruiting 101 and 201 and stuff that I'm able to still log into the Southwestern Advantage for Dealers login, to look at the Advantage University or the Media Resource Center and actually download these things. This is like the 2019 Selling 101. I'm taking this and transcribing it for my work right now.
I think that's called plagiarism, Nick. I think you just kind of outed yourself there. No, for all of our listeners out there, this is a little plug. If you haven't bought whole life insurance yet, talk to Nick. And Andres is going to have something to say about it. Oh, man.
I appreciate replacing whole life policies with much better term policies.
So Sizzler stories, right? We can't. Yeah, I want to hear some Sizzler stories now. Now that Ben got me excited about Pseudo Amigos,
let's do some
Sizzler. I want to share some Sizzler stories, and I want to hear some Sizzler stories.
I got you. Let's do this.
Andres, you got a good one?
Yeah, sure. First Sizzler, Brandon Q and I'm not gonna say who the people were. But
you just said, well, okay.
I'm not gonna say
Brandon. You can say Brandon, but not anyone else. Okay.
This is a crazy we were dancing story, and then I'm gonna ask you what happened and go into your story of what happened at the Sizzler because it was my first Sizzler and that was some wild shit. But we were at a bar, we were dancing. I was dancing with a person and he was dancing with a person, and I don't know if it was somebody around us yelled, "Y'all should make out." But then the two people we were dancing with, who were both females, started making out. And that was like my first night on Sizzler. And I was like, oh my God, what the hell is this? That same night.
And you're already like a senior in college at this point.
No, I'm just a freshman.
Right? You're wait, oh, I thought you were older when you started. Okay.
I got recruited by Steve on the literally Wednesday of finals week.
I remember that. You and Josh Martinez.
Time out. Back to, so we're on the dance floor and two girls are kissing.
Yeah, so this is, I've never been to any frat parties, and then there's two chicks making out. Like, crazy. And I was like, oh my God. And then Brandon, there's a picture on my Facebook, I think, of Brandon like going like this because he was just ended like the two chicks were making out. But then, hold on. Then this transitions into your story because then I was hanging out with my good friend Beth Olson. And we were now talking.
We were on our first team together, Risky Business.
That's right, Risky Business.
Beth, myself, and 7 quitters.
That's okay. Yeah, Beth did not quit, and she's great. She's listening.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
That was Mom's team.
We were sitting down talking. Nope. We were sitting down talking by the pool, and you ran by us, like literally sprinting by us. And then some security guards ran after.
Oh my God! Yes. Oh man, I forgot about this.
Know what the fuck happened that day?
I didn't know where you were going with this. Yeah. Okay. I had my first year's back. Corey Teal was having trouble throwing a fire hose up to a balcony, and I had to help him. And the security guards didn't like that I was helping Corey. I don't know what they had against Corey, but they didn't want me helping him. But they weren't having it.
So we back up about the hose. What happened with the hose? Tell us the story. What happened?
Well, okay, so Brandon and Chris and all these Northern Iowa guys, Nate, probably Dakota, they're all up on this balcony just yelling, like, but there's a fire hose down below, and they're like yelling to throw the fire hose up to the balcony. And he couldn't get it. And so I was like, well, come on. I come walking in. They've been trying. I like show up. I'm like, okay, come on, let me help you out here. And I pick up the hose, and I don't even remember if I threw it once or if I had like just picked it up. But then all of a sudden I find myself like, not in a chokehold, but like, in like a rear Nelson, So I'm like, whoa, like what's going on here? And the guy starts like escorting me, and then I think it was Chris Q. Like the guy like let go for a second, and Chris is like, "Shane, run!" And I like pause for a sec. I'm like, do I run here? Like, I didn't really do anything. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Let's run. And then, yeah, that was running was a bad idea.
Oh my God.
It all worked out though. I didn't get kicked out of the resort, so it was all good.
And here we are.
Shout out to Daniel Berguero for saving me there.
DBA, what a hero.
It's a good thing.
And I think maybe just had a second child too. I guess knew that. I think I heard that. I haven't talked to Dan recently, but I was talking to Will, and I think he mentioned that. But yeah, he's a daddy. Yeah.
Yeah. And he should get some term life insurance for his family and himself. Nick, do you have any good
Sizzler stories?
Yeah.
Well, gosh. So my first Sizzler, we were talking about Fido earlier today, or earlier on this conversation. He brought my first Sizzler the poi stick that like you light on fire and you do all these cool spinny tricks and
oh yeah,
you're spinning fire, right? And so I'm like practicing without lighting it on fire on the beach with Fido, who, by the way, he like whips out like just like this THC dab pen, and I'm just like, oh shit. On the beach in Mexico, he's just like, hey, you want to get a little high? And so we just get a little high, and we're just doing all this stuff. And, there's nothing eventful to this. This is literally my first moment on the beach of my first Sizzler with Fee, right? And it's just me and him, and then some other people kind of show up, and we're all just hanging out, doing some cool shit, right? And, I wind up meeting the lady I became familiar with later on in the week on that beach interaction, so that was fun. But it was just like, wow, this is like all right, we're in a good place, and
that's awesome.
Love the fact that I could hang out with like top producers and just be a human, and just being in Cancun was so fun, and all of the trips to the club, like it wasn't that Sizzler, but like the next one where there was like a wet t-shirt contest, and I'm just like, holy shit, wow, this is crazy. Wait, you taught me shit. What are you doing? Oh, good job, like, I'm proud of you, but thank you. I don't know how to feel right now, right? There's so many emotions that go on with all the shenanigans with Sizzler of people having sex left and right, making out, and second and third dinner. It's like this quintessential experience that, like, that's why Southwestern was able to keep people around every year. Is that it's like Sizzler's worth it.
Yeah, I think when that wet t-shirt contest was happening, I was smoking taxis. I was smoking taxis, which I won't say what that is because it's still a secret. And for anyone who knows what that is, it's the greatest thing ever. But I was smoking taxis with Grant and Yvette, and so I missed that contest. But I'm glad I could have been a part of the life experience that led you to your first wet t-shirt contest, Nick. I'm really proud of that.
Were you guys around? Wasn't it was my second Sizzler, so that would have been Sizzler 2013, where we were in PV, and there was a zoo bar, and they had cages.
Yeah, and they had, yeah, like the gorilla in the cage and stuff.
Yeah.
And
okay, do you remember
Omar Aribe's dance moves? Just like, dear God, wow.
Do you remember when the two girls were on the cage?
No. What happened?
This is gonna be uncensored.
Talking like elevated cage or
yes.
like
yes?
Oh, like the one. Okay.
Nick, how uncensored is this?
Well,
no, it's on the internet.
Maybe we should name names, right? I don't know.
No, it wasn't people we knew. It was just two people that were there. It was because none of the book kids were allowed to go up there. They had like the place rented or something.
Wow. Okay.
It was like a whole different party.
What were they doing?
Boy, it was a party.
Uncensored.
They were one of the guys. Okay, these two chicks started doing a bunch of shit, and the book guys were like, "Do this," and they were doing the shit that they were saying. It was crazy. It was crazy. We were all like, "Oh my God!" Straight not the starfish stuff. It was
wild place. But yeah, I feel like Sizzler was always. I can think back to just the feeling of being on Sizzler, though, of just like the pride of being like, I straight earned this through just like misery, and then everyone had that like shared, just like, well, I say misery, but I mean, we all know how much fun it was too. But like the fact that we're like, we know we're all here because we just worked our asses off harder than any other college student. So we're going to party just as hard as, you know, the worst, you know, I mean, as possibly can be done. Like it's pretty cool. Like that feeling was incredible.
And it's different than
What
like,
you said, Nick, thinking back to, that first Sizzler, and you see all these people that you're like, hey, I idolize these people. I want to learn from these people. Like, I know how impressive they are as humans, and we're all hanging out at the same place, all inclusive, getting dinner together. Oh, what fun.
Yeah, dude, it's great. There was
Shout out to the people who hit Sizzler this year.
Yeah. I mean, and
would you go crash a Sizzler?
I will go crash a Sizzler. That is going to happen.
I wouldn't mind getting invited by my brother who's now at DSM.
Uh-huh.
Because
I'd say like I could picture being like 43 and then just like being a dude that just like, because at that age you're like so far past, like no one's gonna be thinking you're just some dude that happens to also be in Puerto Vallarta, and then just like starts raging with the college kids, and you don't even mention you sold books. You just like insert yourself and start having fun and partying, and you just like connect with them and have some fun and buy some drinks, and they're just like, this guy's awesome, and then you never say anything. You don't even tell them.
And then when you leave, and then when you leave the hangout and the whole experience, you're just like, by the way, are any of you, who's the mom of the house? Are you the mom of the house?
No, you just enjoy it.
Oh, come on.
You just go home that night and you lie in bed and you smile and think that was fun.
Do you drop?
They have no idea.
And you didn't knock on a single door to enjoy that.
You drop even? Do you ever go like, maybe you're telling a story and then you were like, and then I told myself, I'm nature's greatest miracle, and then you just keep moving. Like
they're gonna find out. You're right. They're gonna find out. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
That's unavoidable.
It's also probably pretty hard to contain the need to tell somebody something. I'm nature's greatest miracle or whatever, right?
Yeah. But you just like, you ingratiate yourself into their group and you just like ask them questions and you learn it. So you can like learn the book culture from them, and then just like, wow, this guy picks up quick. I could imagine that being pretty fun.
Yeah. So
have you ever gone to a wedding and pretended to be someone different?
No, I want to do that.
It's amazing. If a friend of a friend ever invites you to a wedding, be like the middle school classmate of like whoever, not who's getting married, you're not going to have access to them, right? But some of those, like, be the middle school classmate of some of the people that were involved in the wedding. And I've done this. It was awesome. And they're like, oh, you don't remember Shane? Because like the people that brought you in on it, they're like, yeah, he moved away after 7th grade. Like he lived next door to Adrian. You don't remember that?
That's straight wedding crashers. That's awesome.
I could imagine having a lot of fun doing something like that for a Sizzler,
That would be good.
Yeah.
Whiskey.
I mean, you just like ask them questions like, so what, like before you guys go out to work every day, do you guys eat breakfast together, or do you just like go to work? And they're like, oh no, we eat at a breakfast spot, right? And you're like, oh sweet. Like, where do you go to, like diners or something? Do you like order the same thing every day? Do you like, how do you like prepare for your day? You're just like probing questions that you already know the answers to. And yeah.
Speaking of a nice diner for breakfast, bro, that place we ate breakfast at after the wedding was bomb.
What was that? Where'd we get? Oh yeah, it was real tasty.
That was straight up books.
Man, what a fun wedding, right?
Yeah,
like
Brandon and Amanda Q.
Shout out.
that was the most fun book wedding I've been to, I'd say.
That was definitely.
What do you guys think?
Grant's wedding was fun.
It was,
but I was feeling
that was more fun. When did Grant get married? I can picture it was in the airplane hangar, right? The reception.
Yeah, it was October 4th, I think, 2000.
October 4th.
2016.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what I would have been. So I had just finished selling books. Yeah, that would have been right after my first summer or my last summer. Oh, so I went to Europe for 2 months and I think I went to the wedding the day after I'd gotten back from Europe, or maybe that was Yvette's wedding.
No,
One or
yeah,
the other.
Yvette's wedding was like 2015, 16. Grant was 2014,
Oh,
15.
Okay. Yeah, no, 2015 would have been my last summer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Yvette's wedding was like October 2015, I think.
What a weird thing, book weddings, right? Like, no, dude, no. My brother's wedding was the most fun book wedding.
Well, you had
Yeah, thanks for the invite, Danny.
Damn.
No,
Hey, mark
Danny,
this down. How many minutes is it in the comment here so right now? So,
no, they had a tiny little wedding, right? Like it was
Yeah.
like destination, like a few dozen people, right?
they went to Vail, and pretty much it was like close family and friends.
That's
so
really
beautiful.
cool.
I cried.
That's really cool.
It was.
Wait, you were invited?
Yeah. I was Danny's AOL, bro.
I'm just
Aisha,
kidding.
Danny, and I all had the same first summer.
I'm just kidding. No, I saw them the weekend before they got married. They were down in Austin, and we had a good time.
Shane, you're invited to my wedding whenever that is.
Oh, thanks.
Both of you were invited to my wedding.
Oh, it's great.
Good. How did you switching back gears? How did you when you I'm gonna have you pick because choose your own adventure story. I want to hear how did you got recruited or why you left, how you got in, or how you got out.
Okay, let's talk about getting in. So I heard Nick say. So Nick, you thought I was on Rob Baum's team?
Yeah, you were on the same team or like the same org or something?
Yeah, same org. So Rob, so the person who actually recruited me and the person who called me to invite me to come to an informational meeting is not the person whose team I ended up on. And I didn't learn this until a year later.
I remember the story now. I knew I heard it.
I'd gotten a phone call and just about like an informational thing at the union. I was like, this sounds kind of sketch, but it's at the career center, so how can it be sketch? Like, yeah, okay, I'll go. I'll hear whatever this is. They said I can make $8,000, you know? And so I show up at the career center and they're like, you know, who called you? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just here because someone called me. And they're like, was it Anthony? I'm like, yeah, probably, you know? They're like, yeah, come on in, go in there, sit down with Anthony. And I sit down as Anthony Fulton, legend. This dude, he played like Husker football, which if you're in Nebraska is like just the pinnacle.
I didn't know a Husker football player got recruited to sell books. Yeah,
right. So his freshman year, he was a walk-on for the Huskers. He had been a wrestling state champion, started his own fraternity at UNL, just like cool dude, right?
A real leader.
And yeah, so as he's, you know, he's just a cool guy. And he asked me right then we went through some interviews and, you know, he just basically asked me like, hey, sign here. And in my head, I'm like, oh, wait a sec. Like he made this really selective. Like he made this seem like it's gonna be really hard to get it. And I'm just really competitive. So like I wanted to get selected. And then he slides me over that dealer agreement. And I'm literally in my head, like just like having this like conversation with myself that I hadn't even thought about if I really wanted to do it. I just wanted to get selected. And I was like, this would be like some funny stories, you know? I could tell my grandkids someday. I could hop on a Zoom and reminisce someday. So anyways, I sign it. And at that point, it's like, crap. Like now because I signed it, I'm doing it unless I decide not to. And then it was literally like 2 or 3 months of me trying to find a good enough reason not to. But like with myself, I couldn't I had to find a reason that was good enough that I could lie to myself. And I didn't find that.
kind of like saying that you're better off with money that you make from families who couldn't afford the products that you were selling to.
Yeah. I don't know if I understood that.
So you like
not gonna agree to that.
Are you telling me right now, Shane? Are you telling me right now you sold books as a fucking joke and you were the #1 first year and like had top teams and all these things? What the fuck? That's hilarious. That's a great joke.
I mean, that sounds so fucking arrogant, you know. Like, but it was true up until sales school. Like at sales school, there was a day where it became not a joke. Like there was a day at sales school where all of a sudden it just clicked, and I thought, you know what? Actually, no, it goes back before that. It was Atchison. So
Yeah.
I was sitting with Atchison, and I guess I had already been like labeled as a red flag, and I didn't know that, right? I was meeting with Fulton once a week. I wasn't really learning my sales talk. I wasn't like, we just meet and we just hang out and talk. Like we didn't like, I don't remember any of those trainings of like, I just remember us hanging out and just,
this is awesome.
Just talking. And then one of those times I met with Atchison, and I again didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh yeah, like this guy wants to talk to me today. Cool. But oh my God. So Atchison, he kind of gets in my face a little bit, but like in like a positive way, like he does. And he told me, he's like, Shane, what other preferences here? So I was telling him about the World Cup was going to be that summer. I was like, yeah, I mean, of course I'm going to watch the World Cup. Like, duh. Like, it's weird not to. What job do you choose to work through the one thing that happens every 4 years, right? I'm like, if a movie comes out, like, yeah, I'm going to go watch it. Like, why wouldn't I go watch a good movie that comes out? Like, that's just a normal thing to do. But yeah, I'm gonna work. Like, cause that's what he's asking me if I was gonna work. I'm like, yeah, of course. Like, I mean, I'm gonna watch the World Cup. Like, duh, who wouldn't? But yeah, of course, I'm gonna work. Like, why are you asking me this? Like, if it's my job, I'm gonna work. I'm gonna do it. And then he got in my face and said, Shane, if you're giving up all this thing from the summer, leaving home, he's like, you're not gonna get a party with your friends this summer. He specifically said, he's like, you're not going to get a blowjob from your girlfriend this summer. And this man is telling me this, you know, the freshman college. I'm like, he's like, you're not going to go to the lake. He's like, if you're giving all that up, it only makes sense to give 110%.
Yeah.
And after and literally right then in my head, I was just like, oh, you know what? Yeah, that makes sense. Like if I'm like, if I'm going to give up seeing my family, if I'm going to give up, you know, going back home and hanging out with my brother, you know, who's about to go into his senior year, if I'm going to give up seeing all my friends and doing this fraternity stuff, and I don't know, you know, if I'm going to give all that up, then yeah, I might as well give it 100%. And so for me right there, it clicked. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm doing this thing. I'm all in. If I do it, actually, yeah, there was still that. I'm like, if I do it, I'm all in. There was still that little bit of like, if I found a good reason not to, you know, I was scared. I was a scared little boy, you know. Now I leave that conversation being like, heck yeah, let's do this. Matt leaves that conversation and he goes to Fulton. And what do you think he says?
You need to get rid of this kid. Yeah.
He says, Shane's a red flag. You need to cut him.
Yeah.
He told Fulton to cut him. But Fulton had 9 people, and he really wanted to bring 10 to sales school. So he brought me.
And then you were the #1 first year.
Wow.
And I didn't learn any of that stuff until, you know, probably Sizzler. You know?
Hey, man, I was told I had a bunch of red flags because I was kind of similar. I was like, what? Why would we do things that don't make sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
I do in hindsight. In hindsight, I wish I had watched the World Cup. That was a mistake.
You'd rather have watched the World Cup than let your life change for the better?
Well, I like soccer. Andres knows this. We talk soccer a lot. And whenever someone says like, hey, remember like 2010 when Italy won and this happened? And I'm just like, no, I don't know that.
The
I
best
don't,
World
because
Cup
I don't give a fuck about the
2018,
World
and
Cup.
that's a misery for anybody that was selling books in 2018 because the best World Cup is definitely this last one. It was crazy.
That was a great game.
So who's the person that called you then? Because you said it was a different person that
called Rob Malm. So yeah, Rob. It turns out Rob Malm had called me, and again, I learned this retroactively. So Rob calls me, I go, and I guess like 2 or 3 weeks later, Rob asks like Fulton or Kristen or one of those whole times, they're like, hey, by the way, did Shane ever show up? And Fulton's like, Shane Hertig? Like, yeah, why? Who? Like, why do you know him? And he's like, oh, like, I called him. And Fulton's like, oh, well, he's already on my team. So, and he told me, he's like, the whole reason he's selling is being on my team, which is partially true. Like, he sold me, Fulton is an amazing salesperson. He's a better salesperson than I was. Yeah, he didn't work, and so I beat him. But, like, Fulton is like, he was a 10,000 unit producer that just never worked a full summer. But that dude just like, wow, impressive dude. So he had sold me on this vision of like this just epic top team thing that I was on board for. And a couple of the other dudes on the team who I got to know were also like sharp dudes that unfortunately quit. One of them had real bad luck shattering his foot, like shattered his foot third week. And he probably would have been top first year. Like that dude was like off to a way better start than me and just awesome guy. But anyways, yeah. So they made an agreement. They said, Fulton was like, hey, you know what? How about this? He stays on my team. Remember, he wants to bring 10. So he stays on my team, but we'll split the commission. So I'll give you half of whatever I make on him.
I remember hearing about that.
Cool. That's crazy though, because Ryan would have had a giant base, because then Steve came along, and then I came along, and then Danny came along.
No, that was Rob. Well, Rob, right?
Oh,
Rob would have. Yeah. You know, yeah, if he had stuck around, you know. But I mean, that wasn't going to happen, right? Yeah. I mean, most of us, right? That
take off.
Anyway,
which brings us to why'd you leave?
I mean, it's time, right? It was probably time. It was probably time a year or two earlier. But I'm glad I sold as many summers as I did, because
5 summers or 6?
It kept 6 summers, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
damn.
so was the 6th summer necessary? Probably not. Am I glad I did it? Yeah. And that was the summer I hit GRG, right? So got to go on. You had a top team that summer, and got to go to Panama. And so that was fun.
That's cool. I didn't know you were on GRG. I knew that. I just forgot.
You got to hang out with Billy Metcher and Brandon Q and some of the other great recruits.
Yeah. Brandon wasn't on that one. I'm sure he's been on many of those, you know. Yeah. But yeah, Will I and David, Stewart, and who else?
Was that with Henry or Dan?
That was with Henry. Yeah.
Fun.
When took a boat ride down the Panama Canal. Austin Sounders was there.
Ooh,
and Amber and Bethany and Ava. Yeah, it was a good time.
So what are you up to now? What do you tell the world? Would you do? What's your life after Og Mandino, after more Utley?
Yeah. No, I sell solar systems. So I've been working in solar for January will be 5 years. And some of that time's been doing outside sales. You know, I first got recruited by, like most people, you know, a company with Southwestern ties. And yeah, what was that? Who was that?
That wasn't me.
I'm sorry, I was clicking on things on Facebook. Pardon me.
But yeah, no, got recruited by some ex-Southwestern people, joined a solar startup called Renew, moved down to Texas. That startup didn't work out, but got me into the solar industry. I was like, hey, this is an industry that's growing and I definitely want to be in. And took a job with a solar company in Africa for a little bit. That was incredible.
Yeah.
And yeah, moved back a couple years ago and working for the oldest and largest solar installer in Texas, Freedom Solar.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, good company. Like it.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Better culture than Southwestern?
That's impossible.
Oh,
okay. It is though, right? Like, I think that's something that any alumni will agree is like, what more fun, just like, I want to say healthy, but obviously it's got a dark side too. But it, like, just the culture of just people like trying to make each other better, not being political, just like trying to like improve and take and receive feedback and have fun. Yeah. It's great culture.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's hard to beat. I mean, I even with where I work right now, it's kind of hard to like find something like that. It's just, and even to explain it to someone who work somewhere else, it's like,
yeah, you say find something like that. Like, I think that's the thing. Like, you can't try to find something like that because, you know, how can something else, well, do you though? Like, I don't know.
Well, through copyright infringement.
Right. But yeah, when we think of the culture though, like you can't try to recreate it because it doesn't make sense for another time and place, right? Like, are you really going to create a work culture where you all give each other pop-up calls in the morning, just yelling randomly? And like every morning, like it would be weird, you know?
Still
That's
it
true.
is.
Even if you like created a company where you like read Og and had breakfast together, it's just not the same.
And
There's something
also you don't need it, right? You get to a point where you've got that assurance in yourself that I don't need to call up Andres and go, oh my God, best ever, hang up right before just that like line, a mental line before knocking on a door. You don't need that. You just like get in your car and you drive to a door and you go knock on it and you're just confident in yourself, you know?
Yeah, and your best is simply what you give by default.
Fake it till you make it, right? And then if you make it, then why do you have to fake it anymore? And I feel like that compulsion that like with Southwestern, I think a lot of people are taught like, hey, there's like a right way, like, and you got to do this right way and you got to do this. And there's like, you start doing these things not because you want to or because but you just do them out of compulsion. And if you don't do them, there's like this guilt of, anytime you're operating from a place of compulsion, I don't think it's usually the healthiest thing. You're going to burn out.
That's agreed.
That's true. That's fair. Was that what would be the biggest thing that you think the biggest thing you've taken away from Southwestern, like from your time there, was just like the ability to recognize that in yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think I grew a lot from the experience of like, learning. Like, I learned about myself for sure. But yeah, so the question, what's the biggest takeaway from Southwestern?
Yeah.
Man, that's a really good question. Have you guys ever spent time thinking about that?
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
I think attitude probably, like learning that I do truly believe that I control my attitude, and my attitude can get sucked up like anyone, but that's something I've never forgot, and that's something that I will just be eternally grateful for. Is just definitively learning, and at a very young age, like experiencing the proof that you control your attitude, or at least the parts you can't control, you don't need to worry about.
Right. I mean, for me, it's kind of along the same lines. Like, it's maybe a little bit more parallel to that, where it's more the idea that like, well, it's just so much shit happens to you, or you hear about happening to you, or like you experience going through, that like other things don't seem like that big of a deal anymore. So I guess that's in a way also having a positive attitude. Like, for example, I was maybe like 2 years ago, I was staying, we were at a conference for work, and I was staying with a buddy, and he was telling me about how he was trying to get to this conference, and he got a flat tire, and he had to ask this guy on the side of the road to help, and he helped him. But the way he presented the story was like, dude, the craziest thing happened.
Can you believe this?
Yeah. And so he was telling me the story, and I'm used to book stories, you know? And then all of a sudden, like, he's walking me through it, and I'm like just waiting for this moment of like, holy shit, like, whoa. But it never came, because to me, I was just like, so you got a flat tire and a person helped you and then helped you make it here, because in the book, it's like a Tuesday. Like, okay, you did that. So that ability, I feel like that's part of attitude, but I think it's also part of like just, well, to me, attitude and perspective are synonymous. So a good attitude doesn't necessarily mean a positive attitude. It just means a good perspective of looking at a situation. That's how I define it, and that's my own. But so to me, just like that ability where it's like, whatever has happened to me since in the book field, it's even in this year in COVID, I'm like, yeah, but at least it's not whatever that I know. On top of that, like situations that maybe didn't even happen to you, but that you encountered with families that you met, right? Where you like knocked on this door and they are going through some shit, right? And you're like, dang, like I don't even know people live this way. And then it wasn't like they looked, it wasn't a poor house. It could have been a big brick house, but there's some internal turmoil in this family.
Yeah, that perspective you get.
Yeah. I also learned how to be a good dad. I'm not a dad. I don't know when I'll be a dad, but there were certain things about families that stuck with me that I'm like, damn, I'm gonna use that. That's such a good parenting tool, or
especially someone like you, because you've just got this like sponge-like memory that's just like this super sponge that it's like anything that you ever like you remember everything from the book field in terms of like, just from talking to you, you'll bring up some experience from the book field that I like did not remember at all. And even as you're describing, I'm like, sure, if you say that happened, like, okay, like, I think I did learn how to be a good dad on the book field. But I don't remember.
Damn, Shane. I don't think Andres has a good memory. I think you got a bad one. I remember that shit.
No, I'm just kidding. But no, like Andres, we were at GRS 2 in Chicago, and Steve leaves his jacket on a train. This is a great story. So we decide, just like, I don't know, we had an extra day there afterwards, and we're like, do you know what would be a good fun thing to do? Let's get on the red line, this north-south line in Chicago, and let's take it as far south as it goes, just because.
That's what we decided. Yeah, that's how it happened.
Wait, what were we going for? Wait, do we have a reason we were going down there?
Yeah.
What were we? Oh, but why were we on it in the first place?
Well,
yeah, he left his jacket on there. But why were we on it in the first place?
Well, we were on it because we were trying to get to this bar, or we got to this bar because we were trying to watch March Madness.
That's right. Okay. And I remember that, but the bar was already pretty far south. Like, I don't know why we chose that bar.
It was like just south of downtown, but it wasn't like way.
Oh, okay. We just like looked up a sports bar and okay, got it.
It was like this dive hole in the wall where they were playing like all the games and the beer.
Yeah.
It was like 25.
We had all our luggage with us and stuff.
25-cent wings and like $1 beers, and we were just like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
And then we got on the red line to go back to the orange line that takes us to Midway, which is how we leave.
This is what I'm talking about. Yeah.
But then
Steve left his jacket.
Yes.
And he was like, oh shit. We're talking like suit jacket, like a nice jacket. And so you remembered the car number, like the 4 or 5 digit number on the outside of the streetcar. Yeah. So when we called the transit authority, he was able to on the spot be like, oh yeah, it was this number. And they looked in that car and they found the jacket.
Yeah, that was funny.
I have a similar story in Chicago, but that was from a way different setting.
Steve didn't believe me. Steve didn't believe me because he's like, dude, I just left my suit jacket. I'm so fucked. Like, I'm like, yeah, we can just call and have him pick it up. And he's like, yeah, but we don't know what. Like, how do we tell him what train? I'm like, it was on the card. It was like 5338. And he was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, just call, go to the front office.
Yeah, we didn't believe you. And yeah, sure enough.
Believe me. I was like, just go ask him.
Damn, Andres, you and I are more similar the more we spend time together, I realize.
Yeah. And so we went, hold on, but the story's not over. Because then we get on the train. And then, do you remember what happened?
Didn't we see some dude like shooting up or someone like dropped a knife or something sketch, I remember.
Bro, I was so scared. I'm brown, so I kind of fit in.
Oh, or the guy had like the mask on his face, right?
What? Yeah. Dude. So the guy tells us, I'll take it from here, Shane. The guy tells us.
Okay, you.
The guy goes, yeah, well, we got good news, we got bad news. We found your jacket. And we're like, okay, wait, what's the bad news? He goes, well, the bad news is it's at the end of the red line. You're going to go to the last stop at the red line. And I'm like the end of this red line? He goes, yeah, it goes all the way to 95th Street or something like that. Maybe just a little further south. And we were like, you're telling us we have to get in a train that goes all the way to the deepest part of South Chicago with luggage looking like freaking tourists, and I got a 6'2" white skinny dude and another 5'8" little Chinese looking guy. God damn it. And so he's like, yeah. So we went, and the further each stop we got, it just got sketchier and sketchier and sketchier. The second to last stop, a guy comes in, he's wearing a freaking ski mask. Now, this is before it was cool to wear a mask in public. And he was just like, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna get mugged. We got luggage. Do we look like we're screaming mug us, right? Then the next one, the guy gets in. The one before that, the guy gets in and he had a needle and a condom and a little like hose, like a plastic.
And everyone was eyeing us. Like, you know, that like we had like you could tell they were looking at like, should I, like, is it worth it? Like,
yeah. I think if there had been 2 of us, we would have got mugged. The fact that there was 3 of us and it was only like singular people coming in, we were like, they were probably like, oh, I can't get away with 3 people. But it was sketchy. And then we get to the end, we got the jacket and we got back on and just zipped it back out. But it was. Damn. It's a sketchy day.
That was wild. And then we raced wheelchairs in the abandoned airport because we stayed the night in the airport, or our flight was at like 2 a.m. or something weird.
That's right. And we ended up meeting that girl that Steve knew.
And then you had a good time on the flight back, yeah.
Yeah, that was a good time.
So Perspective on the book field. Yes. Southwestern, all about perspective on the book field.
These are the stories that this podcast lives for.
But it's true. I have a decent memory, but you have like a phenomenal memory. That's just a fact.
I appreciate that. It's a gift and a curse, because sometimes there's things you want to forget, you know?
So what about like your buddy who had that just like, oh my God, the world's ending story about fixing his car and getting to this conference? What was like the craziest car trouble that you ever dealt with? Like, did you guys ever have a time? I guess I'll just share a story. I'm not the interviewer here. So, I feel like I could tell like 10 stories just about car problems that turned into some ninja sale, you know?
Do it.
And those felt the best, right?
I will tell a car story after this.
Okay. All right. Yeah. We got to round robin this, you know? So I'm trying to remember how this went. So it was my first summer story is always the most fun, I feel like, because you're just so naive. And it was like, you know, when you figured it out, you also felt just like heroic, you know, because you're like, holy crap, I just did that. Oh, yeah. I'm driving to the book field, right? I think I pulled off to get an early knock-in or something. It was a house I've been like trying to catch home for a while. Caught the wife, but you know, the check engine light came on or something. Like it's maybe smoking. But I pulled in. The wife wasn't there, but the dad was there. And rather than, you know, in the street figuring it out, you know, I went up to this guy's house and I knocked. And fortunately, he was a mechanic, of course. And so I was like, hey, I know you're not all interested. Just told me to fuck off. But like, hey, can you help me out with my car? He was just like, oh, hell yeah, you know? So he shows me how to like check the, like, I didn't know anything, you know, I was 19. So he showed me how to like let it cool off first and then like use the rag to like open up the, you know, gauge to release the pressure, but don't do it too fast. So that thing's going to shoot up and, you know, hit you in the face and explode. Yeah. So let it cool down. It was overheating. And like he basically told me how I could like drive it slow and, you know, stop every few minutes and release the pressure before I got to the town to take it to a shop and, you know, not ruin my engine. So I do manage to like slowly limp it to a shop and, you know, it gets there. I can't remember. I think this was a Saturday, so they weren't even open. So I leave it at the shop because like I want to at least leave it somewhere where, yeah. And then I'm like, okay, now what? Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about this part. I don't know if I've ever told this story. So I go to like the highway and then I think I don't know if he was a trucker or if he was driving some kind of big truck. I don't know if it was a semi or if it was a dump truck or something like that. But I also don't remember if maybe I met him in a gas station or if I flagged him down. But somehow I'm in like this semi truck with this dude. Oh, no, I remember. I had to call a tow truck. The tow truck, I went to a business and then used their phone to call. I demoed them, of course, you know, because that's the rule. And then called a tow truck. He came where I wanted to go sell. Because I was in this area that wasn't really my turf or something, but I needed to like find, and it was like deep country. So I looked on my map, on my paper map, and I saw this town that I wasn't supposed to be to yet, or maybe it wasn't assigned to me. I didn't know where it was. I didn't know what school district it was, but I'm like, okay, that town. I paid the tow truck driver like $20 to go 10 miles out of his way and drop me off in this town because he was really reluctant to go out of his way. And I'm just like, I just explained to him, like, just drop me off on the road. I'm like, we're all good. He's like, this is so weird. Like, this is kids having me drop me off on the side of the road, you know? I'm like, take my car to this place, leave it there, all good. I'm good here. Like, you have a good day, you know? Seriously. And I don't know where I am, don't know the school district, but I'm just like, there's doors here, maybe 100 houses in the whole town. And I'm like, this is my town, you know? And so I think, you know, I had 4 or 5 customers that day, just like made it happen. And end of the day, and at this point, like I wasn't on track to be number one, but I was like, I was rolling, like I was doing well. And end of the day, I remember it was dark out. I'm like just walking along the highway. I think I had my phone on me, so I turned my phone on, but I'm just walking along the highway and my roommate calls me up and it's just like, hey, where are you at? I'm like, I'm walking along the highway. He's like, what highway? I'm like, it's either this one or this one. I think this one, you know? And he's just like, what are you doing? I'm like, and I'm like 30 minutes away from home, just walking along the highway. And he finally had turned his phone on. Someone's like, "Hey, want to come get me?" And I picture Curly showing up in his truck. He had a big pickup truck, and I'm just like walking along the highway. I'd walked a couple miles, and big old grin on my face. I sold 150 units, and one of those sales was to like a lady who was like visiting her mother-in-law and just like happened to have her checkbook in the car, and just one of those ninja ones where they're like, "This isn't even my house." And I'm like, "Oh, well, do you have a kid?" And you learn they do have a kid, and you just end up selling them on the curb. It was oh man, that was a great day. That was like such a confidence building day of like going from car problems that I'd never dealt with and no idea how any of this stuff works, just this naive kid who, and then from that to hitchhiking to random town to having a great day, one of my best days, and then so far, and then walking along the highway, roommate picking me up, and just like riding home feeling like a champion on a Saturday too. So we like gotta go home to some pizza and then feel like a boss the next day because I just finished top and wouldn't have if I hadn't done that day. So
hell yeah, bro. That's
those kind of stories. Those are great.
And that's
memories.
the story I wanted to tell. So awesome story, Shane. Way to be a badass. So my 4th summer in Vermont, I took the car that I bought from someone in the org the prior summer, and it just like eventually crapped out like while I was selling books. I was right next to a motor, like a repair shop, an engine repair shop, and they had like a bunch of random cars that you could just buy off the lot. And so I hadn't made a sale yet on the day. It was like 9:30 in the morning. I just took my roommate who was a walker to turf. I came back and started working, the turf that I was living in, and it just car died. And I was like, fuck, I need a car for the rest of the summer. How am I going to do this? I don't know. I go to Ed's Motor Shop there in Poultney, Vermont, and I pick a Subaru Forester off the lot. It's just I called it the Vermonster. It's just a green Subaru Forester from 1999. That was just like, so a little bit of rust, but not too much. It just ran just fine. And it held a bunch of fucking bucks, which is awesome. So I was like, let's fucking go. And now I can go off-road in Vermont, which is normal. And I was like, oh yeah, this is going to make my summer awesome. So I'm like having to call my dad because they're asking, like, I only had $900 in my bank account and the car itself was $1,800. And so my dad was like, hey, I'll pay $900 tomorrow. I'm going to send the check. I'm just like, thank you. And so, my $900 and his $900 creates this awesome car that I just go on. And that day I go and have my best day in sales ever to that point. Oh, yeah. I'm just like, and I'm like I'm freaking out because my mind at 9:30 in the morning is I need to get a car that I can go pick my roommate who's 45 minutes away from here and take him so we can sleep in a house tonight, right?
Yeah. It just shows like when actually selling is the last thing you care about because you're like, I already feel like a boss. Like I already won today because I just figured this out. Yeah. And then you go have your best day.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my gosh.
It's all mental,
Yeah,
and like we've all learned that lesson definitively.
Yeah.
Over and over again.
I had a day there that I sold even more books that summer that had even more tragedy, but that's another story.
So do you guys remember that feeling of just being in the zone when you're just jamming? Like,
hell yeah.
Oh man, I
dream of it, man. I straight up. I'm like, I'm a salesperson to this day, and I'm just like, I always want just to enter that zone again,
It's pretty dope when you're on it. When you just like, well, I just remember like my best day ever because you guys were talking about like those kinds of days. I'm trying to think like my big days. I just remember there was this like feeling of like when just going to what you were mentioning, Shane, which is like I don't give a shit if I sell anything right now. It's just, I'm gonna just go talk to whoever.
Best day ever. Roger Goodell invited me into his house.
Hell yeah. I told this story that you're about to tell to one of my coworkers who was thinking about the NFL and Roger Goodell, and I was like, hey, my friend Shane knocked on his door.
Yeah, I hadn't sold anything in like 36, 48 hours. Like I was like in a slump. This is my 4th summer.
For
I was
context,
slumping.
Roger Goodell is the NFL commissioner, the dude who runs the NFL. For people who don't know who Roger Goodell is.
There you go. Thank you. Here, I'm gonna keep talking because you'll be able to hear me, but I need to fill up the line. So anyways, I'm slumping. I know he lives there. I go out of my way to talk to him. I go 30 minutes out of my way on a Saturday because I heard he might be home that weekend. Brand new house. He was just moving in, and he answers the door. I'm like, whoa! Right beforehand, I'm like, this is going. I'm sitting in my car. I take a deep breath. I go, oh, this is going to be the best approach I've ever given in my whole life. I walk up, just super cool, just hey, is it Roger? Hey, I'm Shane, nice to meet you. Shake his hand, just super chill, come on in. He invites his kids in there. He tells me, oh, by the way, my wife's not here, so she'd be super into this, but you need to come back when she's here. I'm let me just show him anyways. I show them to the kids. The kids are we do 3 hours of homework every night. We're in a private school. We'd use the hell out of these. I actually believe them, as they're just nerd kids who would like them. And Susie and Sarah were his twins' names. And he literally says, well, Shane, looks like you made a sale. But I had already told him that I was going to come back when his wife was there. So I didn't even close him. I did this is they're what salesperson is told you just made a sale and doesn't even ask for the business? And I wasn't even nervous. I wasn't I was just yeah, I already told him I'm coming back, and I just didn't care. It was weird. But I'm yeah, cool. Well, yeah, I'll come back when she's here. Maybe he said it. I should have just been I think he brought it up. Yeah, she'll probably want to buy these. I should have been dude, cut me a check for $400. I'll leave them with you. They're in my car. He would have been he would have said sure. But the thing is, I plan to leave. I give them my information because they're rarely there and it's way out of my way. And I say, if I hear back from you, and he stops me, whoa, you're going to hear back from me. And I'm no, I won't, but as I'm leaving, I was hey, by the way, you've obviously done really well for yourself. What's one piece of business advice you give me? And at that point, he didn't know that I knew who he was. And I think maybe at that point I asked something about the NFL as I was on my way out. He's how do you know what I do? Because he was surprised I hadn't brought it up. But he gave me this one tip. He said, don't ever accept the word cannot from someone you work with. And I remember that, but it was 1:30 in the afternoon when I left his house, and I sold 270 units that day. It's my best day of my whole career. I sold 8 in a row after that, just because I did not give it.
Dude.
I was and it wasn't even because they weren't even his neighbors. I had to drive 30 minutes to get to the next prospect because I had gone so far out of my way. He lived in this gated community with no kids.
You were just in such a good headspace.
Dude, I did not care if anyone bought. And that was the time in my life, where it literally, that was the final proof of just I was this is just all mental. That's all it is.
yeah.
No one cared. No one knew that I just met Roger Goodell, but everyone was writing me checks.
Yeah.
That's dope.
And Shane, I just want to give you a shout out, bro, because seeing you do stuff like that and then talk about it while I'm in the same arena, I'm in the same throes of it. And I just I struggle, right? I'm a human, and I wasn't a top producer in the same ways, but see, every time I listened to your example and heard, I would always go and do well. And just tickling.
Yeah, man, I'm glad.
Oh
man,
flowers,
I knew you'd bring that up. Yeah,
I know. I brought that up at the wedding, but
what up?
I don't know, man. This is it's an awesome opportunity to have a conversation with someone who I've always looked up to, and just hearing stories, man. Again, I told the cliff notes of that story, and hearing it fleshed out. I told my coworker Sean, oh yeah, my friend Shane, he actually knocked on Roger Goodell's door and almost sold him bucks. And sat down with the guy and had a sales conversation. I don't know. That's just kudos to you, man.
Yeah.
You're being
I feel like it wouldn't have been as good of a story if I actually sold him. Right? I probably wouldn't have had that day I did afterwards.
Yeah, right.
I sold him.
Shit.
Who's to say? Maybe. I think
Could have been 300. Damn it.
Ha.
300.
I guarantee Andres has had a 300 unit day. Have you?
Best day was 275.
That's bigger than mine. I mean, I don't know what number I just said right there, but I rounded whatever it was. It was like 250, 260, something like that.
270.
It was 250 or 260. I think did I really just exaggerate like 10 units?
Wow, Shane. No, it was
Well,
275.
always stretching the truth.
Always.
That was a Monday. That was the first week I hit PC. It was bad because like it was 8
Well,
customers.
you had the example of Steve, you know, that
Right.
motherfucker.
Well, that
definitely.
was a week that Steve hit like 800. He hit like chairman's, and we were jamming that week. It was like week. No, excuse me, I lied. It was the week. It was a Monday before the week I hit PC. I had 565 that week. It was 275 that Monday. It was 8 customers. First customer was like at 9 o'clock to this lady who had 2 kids. She bought a 1 through 3. Now, here's where it's funny. The next day, I sold like 8 units. Shit my pants. Then I sold like another 16 units on Wednesday. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting slaughtered. And then like almost, I think it was like a Mufu Thursday and then steak. And I ended up with 565. Like I didn't know how to handle the it was weird.
Wow.
Dude, I mean, I'm the last person to like, you know, I never got better, you know, my Southwestern career, right? It's like as I got better at certain aspects of the job, I got worse at some of them, you know, like that car story. 5th summer, I'm probably a better salesperson, but had a massive car problem, engine cracked. Like, I'm like, shit in my head. I'm like, there goes $4,000. And rather than get a rental car and go sell 150 units, I got a rental car and I drove to a motherfucking waterfall. Spent the day at a waterfall, you know?
You were off schedule?
Game. Attitude.
How many
You weren't?
times in your life were you
You said that you were off schedule?
Dude, I was off schedule like
who wasn't off schedule their last summer or 2, right? I feel like most people got off schedule their second to last summer and should have retired, but then convinced themselves or get convinced that they should go do one more. And then that one more is like hell on earth. And they're just like, they get PTSD from that still today.
That is so true. So my 3rd summer, I was on schedule, and my 4th summer, I was technically physically on schedule, but dude, my attitude was shit.
Yeah, you should not have been there that summer.
You wouldn't follow me that summer. Man.
We had fun that summer, but like, dude, from the hours of 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., like that must have been rough, dude.
Yeah, right.
And I've been there. I don't say that from like a judging place. I say that from like my 5th summer got kind of dark, you know, and it's still a decent summer, but coming back out for that 6th one, like I came out knowing that was my last summer I would sell. And that summer, if I didn't want to work, I didn't work. Like, and the first few weeks, you got that momentum. You're like, you know, you use that sales school momentum, but I didn't want to be there in the first place. And I had learned from the summer before that I wasn't going to put any guilt on myself. Like, I like legit was just kind of past like, you know, the compulsion of like, best day ever. Like I was past that, right? I understood that Southwestern wasn't the way, the truth, and the light, and had this like a relative, I feel like just a healthy perspective on, hey, this is awesome. I'm so appreciative of this, but at the same time, like I'm not gonna allow myself to feel any guilt for doing something I don't want to do. To an extent, right? I still did plenty I didn't want to do, and again had a good summer. But yeah, like towards the end of the summer when I was just like, hey, I'm done, I'd go out, I'd work and a little bit, but like sometimes I'd be in my car just like crippled with anxiety, writing myself a note to like get myself in the headspace where I just like had this internal problem I needed to solve before I felt physically capable of knocking on another door. And, you know, you get to a point where your need to solve the problem is the problem because it's just like this invisible problem that you can't figure out. And I feel like a lot of book people can relate to that. Yeah. And I'm sure some people are like, what the fuck are you talking about? But I know from conversations that a lot of people are like, yeah, I've been in that same place. Can you guys relate to that at all?
Yeah. And this is kind of the reason why I wanted to start this podcast is because I feel like, also Nick, by the way, as we're talking about this, I don't want to cut the conversation. We'll keep going, but is there a way to like make a comment right now or something so that we can go back to be like, this is when we talked about this. So if people are watching and they don't want to hear the whole thing, they can be like, oh, Pony Story is on minute 49 or whatever. Does that make sense?
Table of contents.
Yeah, like a little table of contents. So like, if they don't want to hear about like our friggin' whatever. But anyway, no. Back to what you were saying. Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I'll get personal with this. This is kind of cool.
Yeah.
My
please do.
third summer was the first time I ever let my brother down in his life.
The first time you what?
I let my brother down.
Let Danny down.
Oh.
Yeah. It was my third summer really like drove a wedge, and I won't tell too much of his side because it's his personal shit, but I can tell it to you from my end. Like it was a giant wedge that got like into our relationship because I was off schedule, and I'm not proud of it. I mean, I'm not, but what I learned from it later on, and it took me a while, is which is kind of the craziness of Southwestern, the culture, the darker parts of that you were mentioning earlier about Southwestern culture is like, I felt so guilty about that for such a long time. And I was okay with it, but it's still, when I thought of those moments, my third summer, particularly when I was like super off schedule, I was like, damn, this really sucks. And my brother, we didn't talk for a while. He was pissed, but it wasn't his fault. I never let him down in my entire life. Like I showed him Southwestern, I showed him like the trade home beforehand. Like he kind of followed in my footsteps, but did his own thing. But like he sold books because I sold books, and he excelled at it. He did really good, and for even in his first summer, he looked up to me a lot. And so when I failed like that, it was the first time, and for me that was a letdown because I fail all the time, but I try to do what I say and say what I do. That's one of my like biggest mantras. And that was like the first time in my life that I really did not do what I said I was going to do. And it freaking ripped me apart.
Isn't it crazy that like not being superhuman though is considered failure? Because like we all know that being off schedule is failure, but it's really like to be human. Like in what other workplace do you have people that don't like occasionally have days where they are a little off or something? And not to say that it's like, yeah, I mean, everyone can be superhuman to a point, but then just you have one day where you're human and it's built up this thing where you're like, now you have all this shame and guilt associated with being human that just perpetuates itself and is going to create more of that.
Yeah, no. And for me, it actually started because I had never gotten in trouble in my life. And it actually started, I can tell you exactly when this feeling started and it just snowballed, was my second summer. My second summer, first week, I was selling in a town called Brookfield, Massachusetts, just next to Andover. Super high, big brick, which the summer before I sold in, we talked about this.
New York.
I was poor country. And I got the cops called on me. But what happened is somebody complained about me because I was knocking in the dark. And then the next day I was like at 11 o'clock, second goal period, had somebody following me, and the cops get called. And it wasn't by the mom. So like I was sitting there with the mom doing a sit down outside, and this cop shows up and was like, "You're gonna follow me to the station." And I was like, shit. And I got scared. I got kicked out of a territory, and it like really fucked with me. But I still kept knocking in the dark that summer. But it definitely fucked with me. But then the next summer, the reason I got scheduled that third summer is because my like third or fourth day of that first week, I got the cops called again, and that triggered this thing of like, don't knock after dark. And so like in May, it got dark at like 7 in the Brookfield, and I was up in fucking like way North Pennsylvania, like it's starting to get dark. So by like 7 o'clock, it's dark. So I stopped knocking, and I would just sit there in my car, and I can't tell you how many times I've read the entirety of Og Mandino's full book.
Good story.
Yeah, it's a great story. But yeah, and then from then it was like, oh, 7 o'clock. Well, what's the difference between 6 o'clock? And I stopped at 6. I would knock the whole day until 6.
Yeah.
But I told myself 6 was okay. And then eventually 6 turned to 5, 5 turned to 2, 2 turned to 3, or whatever, go all the way back. And then one day I was like, I wonder what's showing in the movies. And I went to the movies, and I was like by myself watching the movies, which was this euphoric release. And then that's what I spent
what was the first movie you ever watched off schedule? I only did one. I think I only went to a movie once ever, and I did it just to say I'd do it because I was like, I know this is just like the epic off schedule thing to do. So like my last schedule, there was a day where I was rolling. I was like, you know what? Let's just stop and go to the movies because who cares? Like that's a life experience I want to have is being a book guy who goes and sees a movie. You know, I went Ted 2.
Ted
That's the first
2.
What town were you in?
2015. I was in Jonesboro, Arkansas.
Jonesboro,
Okay.
Arkansas.
I think it was Ted 2. Maybe it was Ted 1. Let me see if it came out in 2015. Yep, 2015. Ted 2.
Damn. I never saw Ted 1 or 2.
Where they try to steal Tom Brady's jizz. Oh man, I was just dying. I'm like in this empty movie theater at 3 p.m. and on the book field, and Mark Wahlberg's trying to steal Tom Brady's jizz. It was great.
Oh my God. I watched The Secret Life of Pets my third summer in like the last week, and then I had like my best week that week, and I reward myself by going to watch a movie. And then my fourth summer it was Ant-Man and the Marvel movie. So
yeah. That's a good one.
That was not a celebration.
Man, so evenings though, man. Yeah, mornings were the hardest for me. Like you stopped. Yeah, you're like on the way to turf, and you're just like, and like I stopped, use the bathroom, and then like get back, and like you're like time to pull over. I gotta figure something out real quick. There's something I gotta figure out real quick. What do I have to figure out? Like, crap. Okay, I'm off schedule now. Like it's 8:01. Like oh man, mornings, dude. Once I got rolling, it was good, but something threw me off in the morning. That was tough.
That third summer, I grew 1,800 units without really trying at all. And it was because I took care of my poop schedule in the morning. I drank coffee every morning. Not a Southwestern suggestion, but it moves the bowel, right? I poop every morning. And sometimes, in fact, a lot of times, I would start knocking by like 8:30, sometimes like 9, right? I don't know how the timing worked out, but fuck a morning. Whatever, you got the whole day ahead of you. Go sell some bucks, right? You got no poop inside of you.
Nobody's
Man,
home
anyway. I don't know who it was. I feel like maybe it was an Yvette thing, or maybe it was like a Ron Alford. I don't know, but I feel like somewhere I heard that you should try to not use any caffeine at all. Right?
Yeah, that was definitely. It was Ty Christensen and Yvette who put that list together. And it said, I don't drink coffee during the summer because it leads me to crash, and I don't want to do that, right?
Yeah, no, but like my first summer, I didn't even think about it, right? First summer is mindlessly all these things. I drank caffeine my first summer. I'd have like a Pepsi every afternoon, you know?
Actually, Shane, you're the reason why I drink caffeine of any kind. You drank those V8 energy drinks.
I did for a while, but I gave those up. Like, and so like my last 3 summers, I feel like it was like me trying to like, do all these little things, you know, but that's that compulsion I was talking about, you know. It's like, if you want some caffeine, drink some caffeine, right. You don't, gotta feel like I need to not do this because I committed to not doing this.
Right.
It's a pre-compulsion in that case.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting that you guys mornings was the issue. I never had a hard time.
No, I never had a morning issue. I just had an issue of knocking by 7:59.
Yeah, but even that, like I always got to.
But nice. I think every one of my summers I averaged 4 sales after dark a week.
Damn.
Like if I didn't have a sale after 9:30, that was weird. Like that was my jam. I'm in my comfort zone once the sun goes down.
I am jealous of that.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry to catch you so late. I was caught up at the Snyder's. I meant to be here like way earlier, but anyways, I'm Shane. Like I do this every single time, the same thing. And they're like, oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's just this kid like apologizing to you at your door. And they're like, oh no, it's fine. It's fine. And then if they weren't okay with it, then, at least you preempted it and it wouldn't be as bad a blowback. And you're just like, yeah, I'm so sorry. I'll cross you off. Yeah. But yeah, I sold something after dark every day. Half my units lifetime are after dark. I swear.
That's amazing.
The only time I sold something after dark, and I actually got good at this my fourth summer because I was really, I mean, like I said, I was on schedule mentally, physically, but I was not mentally. I would just cross them off quick, keep knocking, because I didn't want to I didn't want to repeat that third summer again. But my attitude was shit. But what I did get good at was setting up appointments for late. So I would say, hey, do you mind if I come back?
Yep.
Like, and I would use that as an excuse. I'm like, honestly, like, I really would like to work till 9, but sometimes it gets dark and it's not good to go to families I've never talked to. So if you guys are up late, up late, can I come back at like 8:30, 9 o'clock? And just,
Oh yeah. I just
like,
have a little booklet in my car, just like a list of people that said I could come back after 9 or 10.
Yeah.
And so every day, like come 10 o'clock, I'm like, I can do one more. Let's open up the book. Let's see who's on my list.
Yeah, that's how I ever got late calls. And by my fourth summer and my first summer, I was actually really good at both of those. So I was just like, I always had a place to go when it was dark.
My best day of my last summer. So no, second to last summer. So that summer they got kind of dark, right? That was my hardest summer, my fifth summer. And the last 2 weeks. Wait, what was that?
I accidentally clicked on Facebook again.
Oh, okay. So the last 2 weeks, Will Mescher came and lived with me because I was going to stay long because I just graduated. And so, yeah, good idea, right? Decided I'm going to stay long by myself in my, dark first partially off schedule, summer, most off schedule summer of my sixth, right? And so Will comes down. And we're both kind of limping through the finish, which I think most people do that sell long. It's like if you go out and if you go sell a couple hundred units, it's just gravy because you're doing extra long. So you're not taking it as seriously, but you still kind of feel like you should be working. And now I come home one day or at night, like I noticed that the second week, Will's attitude had gotten a lot cheerier. And we were doing a lot of following each other too, because we both didn't really want to work. So we'd I'm going to come work with you today, but okay. I noticed that he's just got a little bit more pep to his step. And I don't know how I learned it, but I learned that his DSM, Anthony Merkel, had told him, because he didn't want to work, right? And Merkel told him, hey, if you go get, how many sits do you want to get tomorrow? 12? Okay. Once you get 12 sits, you can go home. If you want to keep working, keep working. If you want to go home. And so Will's just like, awesome. And so he went home at 7:30 p.m. every single day that week. It just got his 12 sits. But because he was feeling good about himself, he was making a couple sales and then just going home and feeling fine.
Wow.
And meanwhile, I'm out there hard summer, and org was awful. Jeffrey Powers, his org was right next to mine, and they didn't do very well either. Oh, except for Shane Blick. Shane Blick was on his team, and I was doing Shane Blick's coaching calls a lot, and that was that one maybe bright spot is how good he did. And my brother did really well too. Kyle hit explosion that summer.
Oh yeah.
So that was Kyle's second summer?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, so I was in your org that year.
Yeah, exactly. This is your last year. So, in Pennsylvania. And you're my AOL.
Yeah, he doesn't know you had a gap year and then he came back.
No, that was the summer I was super off schedule.
yeah, you weren't working at all. I assume that was your last year, but you came back 2 years later?
Yeah.
1 year later. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I didn't know that. Okay, so it was okay, cool. Well, yeah, that summer. But anyway, Will tells me this. I'm literally you can do that? So Will's someone I look up to, it's this guy I look up to who's done better than me. I'm like, what? You're going home at 6? You can do that? What the fuck? And some people are I don't know. I was just that oblivious person that always tried to do exactly what I say I was going to do. Mm-hmm. And then anyways, we made a plan. I only had 1 day left of selling when I learned that. And I was like, fuck. So we made a plan the next day. We were going to go get sushi together. So I'm like, we're going to go work in the morning. We're going to go meet at this sushi place that our host dad's been recommending. And we're going to have sushi lunch. And then after that, if we want to keep working, we can. That last day, I sold 250 units. It was the second best day of my career behind the Roger Goodell day. My last day of my hardest summer. And literally, it was just I was just sucking ass. And then all of a sudden I learned, I'm like, wait a sec. You don't have to, your DSM gave you permission to be off schedule. And so I gave myself permission to be off schedule the next day. I went in the morning. I made a sale in the morning. I knew I was going to get lunch. I was excited for lunch. I went and got lunch. Lunch took like 2 hours, had a beer with lunch, had some sushi, had a good time, laughed a bunch. Will's like, yeah, I'm probably going home at 7 today again. I'm just like, cool. Yeah, I might too. We'll see. But I go back out to work and I'm just like, yeah, I'm just having fun working. I'm rolling. I worked till like 10:30 and, had 8 or 9 customers. So
that's fucking
that was one of those things that like, I feel like the unhealthy aspect is like people learning that that's okay. Like giving yourself permission to not be perfect and to understand when you need it. Like, hey, like 84 hours a week, go, repeating positive affirmations to yourself is not healthy. And I think a lot of top salespeople kind of learn, maybe some can just do it, but I think most top salespeople learn what works for themselves and then just do what works for themselves and do it without guilt.
Like,
but they do it in secret, right? Like, meanwhile, what's supposed to work for your first summer, which does work for your first summer, where you just brainwash yourself, can't keep working after that. And that's something I feel like Southwestern's never totally figured out, right?
Yeah.
In terms of how they coach to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just because they're all about consistency and replication. They want to be the McDonald's of sales.
Yeah, but that's interesting because the more I've had conversations like this with people, especially people who are top first years or top producers, they had a lot of these days where they were just like, fuck it, I'm not going to work today.
I didn't have one of those till my 5th summer. The 5th summer, I think it happened maybe only once the 5th summer where it was like a day like that. That was the car breaking down day.
Gene's better than all of us.
Yeah, no, I understand, but like
I'm not saying that as like bragging. I'm saying that as like even me, like I was internally anguishing, but I was like, I think I did it way less than most.
I'm saying,
but I was dying inside. I probably should have taken more days off.
I feel.
I'm saying like there's probably top producers who each had at least one of those days where they feel terrible about, and like all it takes is for them to talk about those days and make it and kind of like normalize it to help other people understand that, oh shit, that's part of it
so
too.
Often.
You know what I mean? Like I'd be curious to see how many people have that story, and maybe some.
Oh, everyone, yeah.
I'm sure some don't.
I mean the one day that I, blew my engine and, rented a car and went to see a waterfall. Like I remember that night talking to Grant for my like OL call. I was like, Grant, don't ask me how my day was. I'm gonna go sell 200 units tomorrow.
Nice.
And then the next day I went and sold 200 units, and then I told them that I didn't work the day before. And
that's the way to fucking do it. That's a man's move, right?
But rather than him saying like, hey, no big deal, he probably was like, you shouldn't have done that. It's like, it's probably what I needed.
Yeah.
If those days where I was like in my car frozen, feeling like shit because I couldn't get myself to work, like, I don't know. You just kind of need some forgiveness and to realize it's okay to be off schedule sometimes.
See,
reset. Like, you shouldn't have done that. It's like, it's probably what I needed.
Who's playing that?
If those days.
Who's playing that?
Are people still listening to us?
One of y'all's playing. One of y'all's.
I unintentionally do it every time. So there's
anyway, no. What I was saying, Shane, is like for me, like my entire first summer, not once, not even a little bit, did I get off schedule. Like that summer.
Oh yeah, me either. No.
And so like when it happened in my 3rd summer, and neither did.
Like, oh my God, what's going on? Am I an awful person?
Yeah. So when it happened, my second all day, I hit Sizzler and all that. I didn't grow, but I still sold 3,600 units or something. Not bad.
Do you think that guilt's the source of the trauma, or like where is it? Like, how so many people have trauma from their book selling experience? Like, where do you think that trauma comes from?
It's all guilt. It's all, this is the expectation, and you're disappointing someone in your mind, right? Like, even when I went on to have conversations with Yvette at the end of the summer, or whatever summer I did get off schedule, she was like, I've heard it all. It's no big deal. You're not really disappointing me, but you could have sold a lot more books.
I think it had to do with the fact
I think it's exhaustion too. What?
Exhaustion.
I lied about stats.
I never did that.
See, that's the part that was hard for me because with you were my OL and I lied to you about my stats.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? That's
Mhm.
not good. That was the worst part for me. Because if I was just being honest, I think like the attitude would have been like, all right, well, you're just not gonna fucking work the rest of the summer, so just don't tell anybody. And then when people follow you, just kick some ass. Because I did. Whenever you had people follow me, I was kicking ass.
Mhm.
So Shane, were you asking where does the desire to lie or the desire to get off schedule come from, or where does the guilt come from?
No, it's not just the guilt. I think besides the guilt, I was wondering like what other sources do you think of like some of the pain that people experience? Like have either of you ever gone into a neighborhood? You can go to a neighborhood and get these feelings of like missing knocking on doors, but it also, have you ever like gone into a neighborhood and just all of a sudden felt like an experience of just like trauma?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm convinced from some conversations I've had one-on-one with people that, and my symptoms would be mild in this regard, but like I've talked to people that like I'm pretty sure have like intense PTSD, like
Oh
would
yeah.
be like diagnosed PTSD
Yeah,
from the
my
look
friend
field.
Ben here in Colorado has been diagnosed PTSD.
Well,
4
it's
times.
legal in Colorado. You don't need to go get a diagnosis anymore in Colorado. You can just buy it.
You just say my head hurts. I need to smoke weed anyway.
So to answer your question, yeah, I think it came from the fact that I had never failed at anything before or felt like I'd failed at anything before, and so this is the first time that like I failed, that I lied, that my integrity was put to question, and I did not succeed.
Mhm.
Right? Because I could have easily been like, yeah, I'm off schedule. I'm sorry, I don't give a shit. Oops. Because I clearly didn't give a shit, right? So, but no, I had to tell you that I was doing great, you know, and that was.
I mean, I knew you weren't doing great, you know.
Yeah, I know, and the
But
thing
I also probably didn't know how to like, you know, talk to you about it like real, because I hadn't fully experienced it myself yet until maybe later that summer. And I think maybe you'll remember. I remember we did have a couple really kind of good heart to heart kind of conversations where we kind of got real, right?
yeah,
What do you remember?
and I remember. Well, so part of that is because I don't know if you remember this, but that summer was the summer I went to the hospital because I got like stupid sick with like COVID like shit, like back in 2014, and like my fever was like 103. I was like out for like a week, remember? And I lost a bunch of weight.
I think some of that is like your body, because your thing is when you're putting so much stress on yourself, not just physically but mentally, and like the guilt puts like it's mentally exhausting.
It
Like
affects
your
physiology.
brain uses a lot of energy. Like you're burning calories, and you're just like your brain like can just overwork itself, and just like your body shuts down. Like I think that's kind of what happened, and like what can happen to people. Like
Yeah, I don't know. I would believe it just the same, and it sucked. And I also that was the first summer I had car problems. So like everything that could have gone wrong that summer, like out of my control, did. And then on top of that, I was super off schedule, so none of it was a good concoction. But I do remember um, that we did have a couple good conversations about it, and even in the times that we did after, I mean, it wasn't like total disaster, and it wasn't like this was an everyday thing. I still sold
pretty bad.
Oh, it was bad. Yeah. Like I don't think there was maybe like 4 or 5 days the whole summer where I knocked past 8, if anything. But there were definitely days where I was like, oh, I still got this.
Yeah, we put someone behind you and you'd kill it. You know, you go sell a few customers. Yeah.
Because it was weird because in my mind I'm like, I don't give a shit about me, but I'm not gonna ruin this person's summer by like fucking with them like this. So I went and kicked some ass. Like I would go kill it, and I did. The best off schedule story I have from that summer was because that was the summer of the World Cup, and I probably would have gotten off schedule even if I was jamming this day.
But what if we had just like had you say, hey, you know what, you're gonna work till 6 every day, and then at 6 you're gonna write thank you cards for the whole org, or I don't know, just like something that was productive and beneficial where you can be feeling good about yourself, and you probably would have gone out and jammed, you know, till 6. You know.
No. That's
I would say 7:30, but
that's not true. There was one day.
What are you eating, by the way?
Vietnamese egg rolls.
Oh man, that sounds real tasty.
Bro, the Vietnamese.
That one summer there was one first year I did get off schedule, and I was really mad at myself. No, he wasn't even a first year. It was Manny. He was a manager.
Okay. Yeah.
And we went to watch the World Cup because Colombia hadn't been in the World Cup for 20 years.
I'm so glad you watched the World Cup.
Yeah,
You know?
but this
I
is
remember,
a true story.
I remember watching some World Cup from people's house that summer, but I still was in that mode of like,
Yeah.
I'd be in their house, I'd stay a little longer, but I'd be like, oh, I have to go to the next one. And
Yeah,
I'd like ask him to turn the World Cup on.
Yeah, so this is I'm gonna tell you the story because this is from that same summer. Sorry, I know it's supposed to be I'm interviewing you.
No, dude, this is what it's all about, man.
This is the very cool story. Jenny Brava was her name. Jenny Braga. And in my entire Southwestern career, I only ever met one other person that was a Colombian.
Really?
And it was this lady. Now, this lady, God wanted me to get off schedule. I am convinced. We sat down. I'm knocking, and actually, I'm doing great. I'm knocking, actually, I had a couple customers that day already. And I knocked on this door, and I'm wearing this shirt. It's a Colombia shirt, and it says, it's like, I can't remember why. It's something about Colombia. And Colombia's playing that day. And it's like 10 minutes into the game against Uruguay. And I knock on this door, and this lady opens, and she's like, "Are you Colombian?" First thing she says to me. And I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "Why aren't you watching the game?" And I'm like,
"That's why I'm here.
I'm working." And she's like, "Come in." And I was like, "All right. Are you Colombian?" She goes, "Yeah." We sat down, and I started demoing the kids. And this is the game that you've seen that James Rodriguez go over, hits it with his chest, and then hits it in the World Cup, and then it goes into.
Yeah. Did he win the Golden Boot this World Cup, or was he was a breakout player? Like Real Madrid signed him after this.
Yep, he was the breakout player of the year, and he ended up winning the Puskás Award, which is the goal of the year, and he had the Golden Boot for the World Cup. Yeah, that was that year.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched him score that goal in person with his mom, and we were fucking hugging each other and crying. And then I ended up watching the rest of the game.
Did they buy? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, they
Who
bought
cares?
a science.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But
yeah. So that was the story of that summer. And honestly, I was like, God,
and then they bought.
Never met a Colombian again in the book field, but that was awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yeah, I remember the U.S. beat Germany.
Yeah.
In that World Cup, right? Yeah. I was in this dude's house. This dude, like, I mean, nice house, but also you wouldn't quite like. It is a weird house a little bit. He had designed it himself. He was a surgeon. This dude shows me a picture. So he was an open heart surgeon. He was on the team that did the first ever open heart surgery.
What in like 1954? I think is when that was.
He showed. That sounds right. I think that's right. He showed me a picture of him and Muhammad Ali. He had done open heart surgery on Muhammad Ali.
Oh.
And this was just like this dude, just like a hermit, just like bachelor old man. I don't know if he was widowed or what not, like, but just living by himself and just like, you know, had he's the kind of guy that had like a friggin' like 200-year-old knight in armor in his house or something. Yeah, but it wasn't overly nice, but there was some stuff in there that you're like, what is this? Is this like $1 million artifact? He's like, I don't know, you know, but like, yeah, it was cool.
Shit, dude.
Where was this? Whose door did you knock on?
This is in Pennsylvania. I don't remember what town. I was around Mountain Home. I remember somewhere on there, but I don't know. But I know that like if I were to look at my old iPad, I think I took like 20 pictures in this dude's house. It's like everywhere you look, there's something you just want to take a picture of because it's just like weird and eclectic, but also really nice. And that's where I watched the U.S. score against Germany. That was on while I was in his house. So that's how that ties together.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we were talking about how we snuck out and watched the World Cup because we're assholes.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was trying to get our corgi on screen, but she wasn't having it.
Dude,
I got a corgi?
Yeah, her name's Mifa, and I'm moving out on Saturday. So,
aww.
Yeah.
And so that's cool. And I just know you got this like super bad thing behind you, and there's the Beatles over there.
Yeah, and then my college degree.
Yeah, I'm just rocking this lame. I've been doing just the plain white wall. I'm selling virtually right now, you know, to folks, and I haven't upgraded my white wall yet. What do you guys think? Do you like just like the clean white wall look, or do I need some art back there?
You need some art.
Nick looks cooler with the art, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Nick, make me the host so I can share this screen. I got to show you the craziest thing I saw in Pennsylvania this summer.
All right. Also, we've got one person still listening in live right now. Obviously, the good part about this show is that it'll it'll have legs. People will continue watching this long after right now. So, hello, if you're listening to this, not
Like how I watched the first 20 minutes of your interview with Jeffrey, so I knew what I was in for.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
I had to know. I'm like, are they gonna like ambush me with like hard questions?
Yeah.
No, you're
Yeah,
allowed to share whatever you want.
you guys have just been grilling me this whole time. You know.
So yes, we've got one listener. I'm gonna propose a pretty soon cutoff here, but that's just for me. I'll leave if you two want to talk. But it's been 3 hours.
How much time do you got, Shane?
Yeah, we can wrap it up here. That's cool. What's the one question that you want to ask that you're afraid to ask?
So not that we're afraid to ask, but I think what we're going to start doing is whenever we say, all right, tell us your best pony story, that's usually cue for this is the last story, and then we're wrapping up. Does that make sense? That's what, so that way we fulfill the name of Ponytails. But while you're thinking of that, I'm going to share with you this field that I ran into that summer in Pennsylvania. Are you guys seeing this screen? This was my third summer, and I was driving and I ran up into this freaking place, and look at this. I saw this is like in the middle of a dirt road. I was going between.
What's going on here?
What?
That's cool.
So that was May 25th, 2014. That was that third summer. But this was in the World Cup. I was a family that bought.
Look at you bragging about your favorite photo there.
Hey, a tip for future interviews. You should pull up like the Facebook pages of people you're interviewing and just say, or do your research beforehand and say like, hey, tell me about this picture, right? And kind of do something like that. Because I think those pictures there, if I were just telling you, hey, tell me about this picture, that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, heck yeah. That sounds like a good idea. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
But anyway, isn't that creepy?
Pony, I think that's cool. I like that.
I thought it was artsy, yeah.
It was cool, but when you're driving in the middle of the freaking road and you just see like some crazy shit, you're like, what?
You're like trying to make sense of it. Like I can imagine like 1 o'clock on a Friday and you're just like going to a house and you're expecting to talk to someone. And you're like, what the heck is that?
I mean, I put a filter on it so it looked cool, but the first thing I thought was not cool. I was like, oh. Yeah. This is someone got murdered here.
You're like weird art. You're like, yeah.
Bikes.
Yeah, someone who lives around here is not sane. So
this looks like an episode of Criminal Minds.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, Shane.
So pony story, and we're done.
Yes, sir. We can wrap. Well,
Shane Hertig pony story. The pony story.
Dude, I mean, I feel like that Roger Goodell story is like.
All right,
he was my pony, and I got paid afterwards.
So let's go down the tier of pony stories then.
Or like the time where you dropped a bag, or the biggest sale you had.
Or just like someone who shouldn't have bought, but then they like bought a lot.
Yeah. So let's just go with this. Let's pick a summer, and give me a summer 1 through 6.
7.
Wait, which one was your best one?
3. Okay. So 3 was my worst start of my 6 summers. Like after 4 weeks, I was like even behind my first summer. You know, in my first summer, I sold like 20 units my first week and like 100 my second. And my third summer was awful from the start. But then it was just like PC, chairmans, you know. So what was a big one that got that going? My best week was my last week. On 1 week, brand new territory, Hyde Park, New York.
Hell yeah.
Home of FDR mansion, Vanderbilt mansion there, but not necessarily a lot of money otherwise. Here's what I'm gonna go with. I got nothing there, but so this was my best pony because this is the best commission I've received ever on a sale. So I sold some weak math books to this single mom and her daughter.
Math books, huh?
Yeah, where the daughter was like, yeah, like I'm definitely gonna use these. These are helpful. The single mom, but like one of those like really kind of smart moms that actually is like real conscious of finances, and even though it's not a big expense, still understands just the value of a dollar really, really well. And but I don't know if this was all. I'm pretty sure I came back to delivery later, so I don't think this was like on the spot delivery, but zero down, and then like came back to deliver, or maybe this was just all kind of in one. Maybe this even happened during delivery week. This might be why. But anyways, what we worked out was she paid me with, maybe she actually paid me, but then they had this like terrarium with this gecko in it, and I was just asking about the gecko. And oh, that's it. Yeah. So no, it wasn't weak. She'd paid half. When I come back to deliver, we start talking about, we agreed this was maybe the second half of payment. But anyways, I ended up taking this big old terrarium with a spotted leopard gecko in it as payment for the second half of these math books. And I Mango, Clementine was her name, the gecko. I ended up giving it to our roommate in Lincoln. But yeah, I took this big old terrarium as payment. It was her son's, and her son had moved away and couldn't take it for some reason, and so I ended up driving back to campus with a bunch of books and this terrarium, and at checkout got this terrarium in my hotel room and bring it back. But that was pretty hilarious, just taking.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so that's not at all a pony story, but that's what comes to my mind is getting a spotted leopard gecko as payment.
What was the leopard gecko's name?
I think it was Clementine, if I remember correctly.
You can see that, yeah.
Yeah. I only had Clementine for a year.
Yeah.
And then went to travel. I couldn't really go travel with Clementine, so I
give it away.
I don't know what happened to her. Hopefully she lived a good rest of her life.
That was my first summer.
What was?
2012, right?
Yeah, it was the Allen. Well, yeah, that was when I was in Maine. Yep.
Corey Teal's first summer.
Mm-hmm. No. Corey Teal's first summer was. So that was my fourth summer then that I got the gecko. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. No, Corey Teal's first summer was 2012, and I know that because my first summer was 2013. I went to high school with Corey Teal, and I remember I called him when I was doing the interview process with Anna Reesberg. His first summer was 2012.
Yeah, because he was the MVP. Remember, he was super drunk. He was so drunk.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, he was Sizzler MVP. You're right, dude. Yeah. He went hard. Yeah, he did great. I was so proud.
Wait, Corey Teal fucking won MVP and didn't sell a second summer? That's dumb.
He won Sizzler MVP.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
It wasn't even like he got wrecked. He was blackout drunk.
Every day. Yeah. He didn't. Yeah, he wouldn't make it out past 9, but then he'd like sometimes wake up at 1 and then like come rally, still like blackout. Yeah, that was great. And yeah, I don't know if you guys are like this, but you've like saved a bunch of your stuff where I've got all these like notebooks set aside and order books. Sometimes I just want to go through those pre-approach pads and just remember all those little notes you scribble in the back of your pre-approach pad where you're just like, you write on there like, man, wouldn't it be cool to be an eagle? Like you're just some like weird thought you have in the moment.
3 kids, dad's home at 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, hey, really, really fun talking with you guys. Thanks so much for having me on here.
Dude, it's been so great. Thank you so much for being here from the bottom of my heart.
Mine too.
I appreciate you, man. I'm so glad that you're able to be a part of this. Feel free to
you guys do a great thing.
I appreciate it. Once this is done, I think we're going to try to upload them to YouTube. And if you want to share yours and tell people about it, that'd be great. Tune in for some of the next ones that we're going to have. Brandon Q and Amanda and periodically are going to be with us on Saturday.
On Saturday afternoon at 4 p.m. Central.
4 Central. And then Phil Zolke is on the next day at 3 o'clock Central.
Sunday.
And was this podcast sponsored by Term Life Insurance or Whole Life Insurance?
Sponsored by Term Life Insurance, the only kind of insurance you should ever have. If anybody's listening.
And Nick, is that correct?
No, because Zoom is the platform we're on right now, and I paid for the $15 monthly cost to
This is
like
true.
stream live, and my paychecks come from whole life insurance.
Oh, interesting.
So this
Okay.
has been
So
actually
So this
sponsored by
this
the logo and all
podcast
that
was
stuff.
sponsored by Whole Life Insurance, not Term Life Insurance.
yeah,
Whenever
not
we get a logo and all that stuff, we'll see how that changes. 'Cause
And I actually, sorry, I think I cut you off there. You were saying Phil Volke.
yeah, Phil Zolke is on a Sunday.
Sunday.
So tune in, please. It'd be great to have more viewers, share, ask us questions. Yeah, man, it was great. It was great talking to you. I got dark. That got good. That was the whole point of this whole thing, and I feel like we nailed that as well.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
We hit the whole
We
we hit
talked
the whole
about all
spectrum.
things, yeah. And
Yeah.
to continue a little bit more of plugs, we're not just having dudes on this podcast. We're getting some ladies up in here. We've got Victoria Ola, Sydney Mead is a potential in the works, Sydney Ann Dove, and Sarah Ayub, some people who are near and dear to my heart, and countless others. So, you know, look forward to more content. We're figuring out how to make it more, you know, jam-packed and exciting. You know, if this is the content and the structure that you love, just let us know, share, thumbs up, subscribe, whatever, man. I don't know. I'm new to this, but
Feel free to share this
however you want to give feedback, let us know what we can do to make this better, to be a more enjoyable experience. It's not slowing down anytime soon. We've got plenty of momentum going into this. So,
well, this has been fun.
Yeah, it was cool.
Let's talk again soon, guys.
Tell your friends about us.
All right, later.
All on the other side. Peace out.
Hey, guys.